Good morning, dear Natalia. It's so great to have you here today. I would like to welcome you all to our 12th Future Talk by Border Forward. My name is Petra, and I'm very happy to lead you through this exciting talk today. I have been supporting Ulf in the Innovation Lab for some time now, and I would like to guide you through this morning session. Ulf is unfortunately ill and cannot participate. Dear Ulf, we wish you a speedy recovery and please get well soon. For now, please let me introduce you to our very special guest today, Natalia Karbasova. Natalia, if you just click one slide ahead, thank you very much. Natalia is the founder and CEO of FitTech Club, the global networking and business acceleration platform for founders, executives, and investors in fitness, health, wellness, and technology. I've known Natalia for quite a long time, as she was previously at Border for 9 years. Natalia successfully launched Border Bootcamp, a startup school for talented young entrepreneurs, coders, and designers that promoted the startup ecosystem in Munich. In 2018, she launched the FitTech Summit in Munich as part of Border, and her success secured the brand rights for FitTech Summit in 2020 for running her own business. Today, we're eager to learn from her how the entire health space will shape up in the future in the form of wearables, and excited to see what we can learn from her today. Dear Natalia, thanks again for coming, and now the stage is yours.
Thank you, Petra, and thanks for having me. And hi, everyone. Guys, if you can send any kind of icons, emojis, whatever, feel free to do so. If you have any questions right in front of my conversations, just feel free to ask those in the chat or through voice, right, Petra? Right, cool. And Petra is going to be moderating it. All right, so as Petra said, I come from the media world. I used to be in the media space for over 15 years, nine of which I spent as part of Border. So this is a bit of homecoming talk for me right now. We now run the FitTech Summit, which is the global conference for decision makers in the fitness and health space. And our investor is the Germany's biggest health publishing house, Worten Verlag, which is the owner of the Apotheken Umschau magazine. So media space, I'm still part of the big media world, I would say. And the most important product that we are, however, doing or creating is the FitTech Club. Just in short, that's the global community of decision makers in fitness, health, well-being, plus tech. And we have members from all over the world, from different sectors, from digital fitness to health. And this is kind of, this is how it looks like. We run lots of events, over 20 events per year for members, but also public events like the FitTech Summit, which I started as part of Border and which still exists as part of our company and is coming to Munich in June this year as well. So this is why I'm going to be talking about the wearable market specifically today, because, talking to lots of people that are part of the club members, we kind of, observe the trends and observe the market and know what's happening in the space. But before we get started, the talk is about wearable trends, wearable market, the developments that we're observing in the market. We have around 45 to 60 minutes for this. Well, I guess yes, now a bit less, like 45 minutes for this talk. As I said, any questions, just shoot. We'll also have some time at the end of this talk or the conversation to answer the questions and just to start a small discussion. So let's get started. What is actually FitTech, just to start with? This is quite a new market, and this is the market that we describe as the market at the intersection of fitness, health, well-being plus tech, where technology is being used to augment human health, physical and mental health and performance, right? And we also know that health, especially in the post-pandemic world, is the new status symbol. Wearables obviously are part of this FitTech market, and the market is quite big. So it is expected to be almost $400 billion globally in 2028. Just to compare, a couple of years ago, it was over 100. So it's like the growth, 3 times growth of the market within several years, which is obviously quite huge. And I believe that almost every one of you is right now wearing some kind of a wearable. Personally, I'm wearing Whoop. Marcus, you're wearing a ring as well. Petra, what are you wearing? Do you have any wearable? No. Okay, you're
Not
probably a
yet.
big exception. Not yet, but probably after this talk, right? So let's just consider what's actually happening in this market, because when wearables started as simple step trackers, step counters, right? Which isn't that exciting. It was exciting for some time, but to be honest, not anymore. So what we're observing in the market in general is that new concepts are really being created on the everyday basis. New categories are being created in these markets, and new wearable categories are part of those. So we know that consumers are increasingly tracking health metrics like heart rate variability, sleep, body temperature. And the next step is also already on the horizon. So we are now starting to track hydration. We're starting to track our stress, which is, a function of heart rate variability, and some other indicators. Alertness, so how mentally fit are we, not just physically fit, how mentally fit are we for specific tasks. And to be honest, I think this is great because this is what could help us in the future to work as distributed teams. What we're doing today is the result of the pandemic, right? So just as an idea, and Petra, you will be also asking me what's in it for Border Forward. So one answer for this would be, of course, for team management, this could be a great help when you know what kind of state, physical and mental state, the employees are now in, and if they're really currently ready for specific kinds of tasks, like brainstorming where you need to be creative, or more focused time, or whatever. So this is what you can do, because we're all working with our bodies. Our minds are part of the bodies, obviously, right? So this is super important just to understand what kind of state I'm in currently, right? So what we're also observing in the market is that consumer wearables are now being increasingly combined with the medical devices, right? So this is the area of the industry which could be called consumer health, right? And this is right at the intersection of medical and fitness. This is also the field that we are operating in. We also know that wearables are actually now kind of, they are all considered to be always on. They should be always on. That's what to be expected. And this is what we call the 24/7 wearability, where we just don't get them off our wrists or fingers or whenever we are, right? And for such concepts, companies like this one, which I'm wearing, and I will talk about that in a bit later, have also developed charging concepts where you just charge on the go. You don't have to take it off anymore. And this is part of the 24/7 wearability concept. And last but not least, of course, is that the forms of wearables are also moving forward. So we see the evolution of forms from wristbands, where we all got started, to watches, now also to rings, to skin patches, and smart garments, which are technically speaking are pure wearables because you wear them, right? So these are the overall trends that we're observing in the market. And I would like to highlight some segments that I think are very interesting, where things are happening, and that you should be aware of as well. So first of all is, of course, watches are the standard wearables. So we see the new wave of watches coming in that have very clear customer segmentation. And what I mean by that, let's just look at Apple. And by the way, Apple is also making just the Apple Watch is also making as much revenue as a medtech company. If there was Apple Watch as a company, Apple doesn't show the revenue numbers for this, but just based on the sales figures. So if we look at Apple, it introduced Apple Watch Ultra, right, which is focused on athletes, which is and specifically triathletes, which is tracking lots of things like GPS, like compass, like depth for divers, running metrics that are not standard consumer metrics. So manufacturers, and I could also say Apple is trying to out Garmin, right, which is known for its sports watches. Obviously, there's a lot of willingness to pay in the segment, and also very clear expectations in terms of performance and robustness of those devices. On the other hand, we have companies like Withings, the French manufacturer, that actually already had sold to Nokia and then bought the company back because they said, hey, we know that Nokia isn't able to manage the company the right way. And those guys are really focusing on health, right? They combine health with a, I would say, nice French style, right? French design. And they track lots of health indicators like oxygen saturation, breathing disturbances, ECG, and those are the data that you can also share with your doctor, right? This is also definitely one of the trends where we see consumer wearables as medical devices that are in between, right? So they're between two visits to the doctor, right? So ideally you have the data which is consistent, where you don't just go once to the doctor once in 6 months and get your data kind of tracked. Let's measure your blood pressure. This is like old school, right? The new approach to health is having constant data tracking, sharing that with health professionals, right? Also sports professionals like your trainers, maybe if you're an athlete, and then acting on those data. Another example is in the big Apple Watch competitor, of course, is Fitbit that was bought by Google, right? Those guys are trying to focus more on well-being. So this is, I guess, this is Fitbit Sense 2, the new model. And they are trying to kind of coach you in terms of stress management and better sleep. You can see in the screenshot, they're also asking you, hey, how are you feeling today? And they're kind of trying to build trends and help you feel better, right? So much to watches. You see this category is also being developed. And speaking of mental health and anti-stress, or probably de-stress would be a better word, as a lifestyle, of course, there are also way more wearables now that are coming to the market and are focused on de-stressing your life, right? One of the examples is a very much awaited No Watch, right? It's called No Watch for a reason. They just don't have a display, right? So this device is called, it's really screenless, right? And this device is called the world's first wearable. So you should be aware of your health, right? The watch is also functioning in combination with an app and subscription model. Right now, if you buy the watch, and I think it's around 400 euros, you get the subscription, the lifetime subscription for free, right? Of course, you need to motivate users to, get onto the new device, because obviously you cannot wear like 3 different watches simultaneously, right? We also have the real estate of our body where there's just limited space for wearables that can be put on it, especially on the wrist or in the fingers, right? So we do have wrist wars, we do have, finger wars for wearables. You will not be wearing like 5 rings, right? But coming back, No Watch is a new concept, and it's trying to predict when you're about to get stressed, right? Give you a warning before, so predictive warnings, and tell you that you should, restore balance, do breathing exercises, calm down. So it's kind of the self-management system, or the system that helps you to do the self-management in terms of stress. Another example is this one. It's called OXA. And this is a very new product. It's just finished its Kickstarter campaign. And this is basically a breathing wearable with biofeedback. And biofeedback is probably something that the wearables of today are doing way better than the wearables of yesterday, right? It kind of tracks where you stand in terms of heart rate, in terms of breath rate, in terms of some different factors, helps you do specific exercises. So it also trains you, right? And it also helps you to focus on mindfulness. As you see, a totally different form factor, just a sensor which is built into the apparel, right? And this is what you can use just kind of for your yoga sessions, morning meditation sessions. So it kind of tries to replace a meditation app if you were using it before. All right, we've seen watches, we've seen some other forms, and now let's speak about rings. You probably have heard of, which is the most important, I just put the wrong email, the wrong URL there, but it's Oura Ring, right? And it's been the category pioneer. It's a Finnish company, and everything that they're doing is focusing on sleep, right? But they're also measuring now your kind of readiness score, which is similar to recovery score by Whoop, or Fitbit has also similar concepts, and activity scores. So they kind of, added new categories as well. And it's also trying to kind of help you be more mindful of what's happening with your body during the day or during the night. But we also now have different kinds of rings. This is one of the example that's called Ultra Human. Its claim is that this is the world's first metabolism tracking smart ring, and you probably have noticed that the wearable manufacturers love saying they're the world's first something. So this is also the war of value propositions and marketing claims, I guess. They try to kind of, track your movements and also optimize not just for fitness, but also, and this is new, also for longevity goals, right? And by the way, longevity is one of the biggest trends that we are observing, which starts when, with intermittent fasting, to doing the right kind of exercises to track, to fuel your metabolism, to tracking glucose levels that will come to later. So this is all part of the longevity trend. We want to live longer, and we just don't want to live just longer. We want to live healthier as well. So another example of a ring is Circular. It's a French manufacturer, and it offers a combination of hardware, data intelligence, and subscription model. So as you might have noticed, those subscription models in the hardware space are kind of, they gained popularity with Peloton, with a connected hardware fitness company, but they're also now moving into different types of equipment, of hardware in the fitness and health space. Those guys also help you to restore your focus with breathing exercises. You can see the keyword mood control here. So this is also something that is new, that wasn't there probably 1, 2, or 3 years ago, right? And they help you to make informed behavioral decisions on a daily basis. That's the claim. And this is important because this is where the devices stop to be just, external gadgets and start to turn into companions that help you change your life and habits, right? And to do this on an informed level. So if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, you don't now just go and read a book, right? And think, okay, what's in it for me? You get a gadget that really tracks what you're doing, right? And that helps you to understand what's happening with your body and change the habits that are not helping you. Okay, and last but not least, this is also something interesting. We have the Happy Ring, which is of course a great name, and they claim to be the first wearable for your mind. Again, real-time mood tracking. They also measure your mental focus, stress, sleep patterns, and also as a Circular, help you with the habit coaching. This was the ring category. So as you see, the form factor rings, it's been around for a while. It's been for biohackers. Probably like 3 years ago would say, hey, someone who is wearing a ring is a biohacker. That's kind of a strange person. Now it's mainstream, and now the manufacturers are trying to differentiate themselves by offering different functions and really offering value on top of hardware alone. All right, let's move on. So another one that I think is very interesting is CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, right? This is something that you definitely need for better eating patterns, but also for, which, as you know, is the basic, the foundation, along with sleep, for your fitness, right? So it's sleep, it's nutrition, it's exercise, the 3 pillars. I would say personally, it starts with sleep, and it goes on with nutrition, and it ends with exercise, right? And in terms of continuous glucose monitoring, previously, it was something that the diabetics were wearing, right? It wasn't really relevant for normal persons. But today, we know that those devices can give us really good indications of what kind of processes are happening in your body in terms of glucose consumption, glucose spikes, and obviously our main goal on the health level is to ensure glucose stability, so that your glucose blood sugar levels are not really spiking or going down a lot, but stay more or less on the same level. And this is what those devices are helping with. So they kind of help you optimize for your preferred fuel source. They help you make tests and say, hey, try this kind of nutrition when you haven't eaten anything before, then try another one after the day after, and we'll compare and tell you what works better for your glucose level, what you should eat for breakfast, and this is very individualized, right? This is really something that works on the individual body level that you cannot generalize. Of course, we know that there are specific, parameters and specific values that are healthy or unhealthy, but those devices, as well as levels, by the way, that's the competition of Super Sapiens. Super Sapiens is targeting athletes more, and levels is targeting like normal consumers, right? Those devices really help you to make better decision on a daily basis, because they say we have the data that's customized to your body that tells us that this kind of nutrition is better for you than another one, where you probably would not know the difference otherwise, right? Interesting is that most of those devices actually just work with one kind of sensor. So this thing that you see on this part of the arm is just the sensor, and it is tracking your sugar levels, and is also showing you the level of your blood during the day. And usually you track it just for 14 days, right? For continuous glucose monitoring. So you track it for 14 days, and after that, and during that time, you have your, you put in the kind of foods that you eat, how much you have eaten. So that's quite a lot of work, right? Just to track it properly. But then you have the detailed analysis, which says use this food or use that food, right? So that's on the level of nutrition. And of course, where we have nutrition, we also have hydration, right? We have to eat and drink after all. And this is something that is also just getting started, that's just going to the market. Hydration monitoring, and right now it's mostly being offered for audiences with physical overload. So here we're speaking, for example, with NICS biosensors, we are speaking of athletes, soldiers, and laborers, right? So they track your sweat data. They tell you, hey, you need to drink a bit more. Remember to hydrate. You are underhydrated, right? And they also offer you the analysis of what's happening in your body. And the same goes for Epicor Biosystems. Both have just introduced their trackers at CES, at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, where Epicor is calling itself bio-wearable. That's also a very interesting trend. So it's wearables with biofeedback, and it's also bio-wearable, right? That is just a normal patch that tracks electrolyte loss, it tracks skin temperature, it analyzes your sweat, and it provides you with insights what it actually means. So you guys see that we're on our best way to cyborgs, because everything is being tracked now. All right, so let's move on. That much to hydration monitoring. And I would also love to touch upon one very still underserved target segment, and that's female fitness, female health, right? Females make out 50% of the population, right? But we still know that around just 3% of the academic research is being focused on the female body. So this is being changed now. FemTech, which is the segment term for female health, female fitness, FemTech is now starting to get into the masses, right? And one of the examples for this on the wearable side would be this ring, AV ring. This is one of the first wearables for females. And it combines not just the biometric data like sleep and heart rate, that other rings are also doing, but also female cycle tracking. So it kind of, tracks, and this is of course a big competition for the apps like Flow, for example, that are tracking the female cycle, because of course the ring gives you way more information about the body and what's happening in the body than just an app, right? So they will be going to the market soon, and those guys will probably be quite successful for the reason that the category of smart rings is already here. So this is nothing new. The market adoption is here already, right? So what they're doing, they're just addressing the target audience that is ready to spend money on their health. And we do know that females spend more money on health than males. And that when males spend money on their health, it's often being kind of, started or motivated by the female, right? Because they're just way more health aware. So this kind of category is very interesting, and I would be very interested to see how it develops in the market. All right, let's move on. We have a couple more categories to look at, and one of those is connected clothes, right? And it's for everyday athletes, but also for professional athletes. And this is what I would like to have a look at with you together. So we have a couple of companies in this space, like StriveTech. This one is an American company that are focused on fitness performance and athlete performance, where you can, as you see, this is just the underwear. In a way, this is an underwear, right? That tracks the muscle strain. Yeah, it's super interesting because this is what what was not possible to track before. They track muscle strain, they track movement data, and by focusing on athletes, they also help you to optimize your performance, right? And what's more important, injury prevention. Why? Because obviously in the higher segment of athletes, they're quite expensive. So those of the guys that are injured obviously cannot earn money for the team, cannot play, and just this is something that any kind of a club tries to avoid. All right, let's move on. And this is something that I told you about before. This one is Whoop. This is just a simple wearable that I'm wearing here right now, right? They recently introduced the body collection, which is called Whoop Body. And it gives you the opportunity to wear your sensor whenever you want, right? So it's interesting because Whoop has managed to build a whole community of followers that are wearing, the device on the wrist. And by the way, this is really a wearable that doesn't look sexy. This is just a wristband, but it's tracking lots of metrics, right? And it's, I guess it's even tracking more than the Apple Watch. And so they focus on recovery and actionable advice. And by introducing their own apparel line, you can now wear it anywhere, which is very important for contact kinds of sports. You cannot wear this kind of a wristband while boxing or doing, any contact sport. And now you can do it, right? This was a huge step forward for them. They have their own apparel line, and we'll see in this example, Q Sports, those guys are from Austria, that this is not always the case. So Q's is focusing more on their sensor, right? And they do have their apparel, but they're actually focusing more on the white label solutions, right? Where they kind of want to integrate the existing sensor into apparel lines of others. And this is where they're collecting also quite a lot of data, right? So data collection nowadays is a really huge thing. And they're collecting data on heart rate variability. They're tracking your breathing rate. They are even tracking speed and geodata and G-force, especially important for sports, heart rate load, lots of things that help you understand the athletes, just most importantly, the athlete's body better, right? And by doing this, also make better and more informed decisions. So jumping back, let's just have a look at this one because it's also very interesting. I have just found this example recently, and Virus is an apparel manufacturer, right? But there's one difference, because now they're also working with our Sensei AI, which is a company for motion tracking using computer vision, right? And you can now also track your motion in 3D. So not just, moving backwards, moving forwards, but also how you move your muscles. If you are moving your arms right when you're doing biceps curl, for example, all those things can now be tracked when you're wearing this apparel, right, with integrated sensors. And on top of that, you also get real-time audio coaching and can kind of improve yourself what usually just a trainer would be doing. So this is totally, and this is all being done without a camera, right? But before that, tracking the movement in 3D was only possible with a camera, right? Now we'll also see the new category of wearables, and I think we'll see more examples in the future where the coaching aspect for physical movements will be built in directly into the system. So by buying some wearable, a t-shirt or like leggings or whatever, you are also automatically buying yourself a coach, which is interesting, right? All right, let's move on. I've showed you the cues, I've showed you Whoop, and now I would just like to go one step further. And it's also wearables, but it's wearable robotics, which is right now, it seems to be very, very far in the future. But for the injuries, for rehab, we are already seeing those things happening, right? And here's an example of WeWalk, and those guys have received their FDA clearance for personal fitness and rehab, and are being used for patients with injuries still. But we do know how innovation is being created, right? You can start very low. By low, I mean low level of performance, like medical cases, create support for them, and then this technology moves up to the mainstream market, right? Or you start very high, meaning high level of performance, professional performance, create technology for them, and then it moves downstream into the market for the mass adoption. So this is the axis where I would say it's like medical cases, mass adoption, and athlete performance that we are moving along. And this is why it's also so difficult to differentiate between just consumer electronics, professional athlete electronics or wearables, and also medical cases, because ultimately they're all blending together, right? The underlying technology will be the same. What would be different are probably business models, pricing, the level of integrations in any kind of system, which could be a sports club or a hospital or just an individual person, right? So this will be different, but the underlying technology will be the same for all three applications. So another example, and this is like really still very early stage, that's still the future, but another example for this kind of robotics is this one. It's Tonus Tech. They are also members of our FitTech Club. So I talked to the founder once and again. It's very interesting to see the development. It's really hard to create hardware that's being used consistently and where the costs don't skyrocket, right? But people are already working on this. And where we can start with this kinds of exoskeletons, but we'll probably land with something like this in the future for mass adoption, this kind of wearable apparel and exo apparel. So the robotics technology that is being built into the garments, right, that you wear, and that can help you mime human muscles. Right now, the use case is rehab and elderly care. This obviously they want to help elderly people to move freely and just to be fit or to stay fit. But of course, in the future, we'll see cases for normal consumer adoption, right? And also cases where we'll probably even have some kind of the tech-based competition in the future, like Olympics for technically augmented people, right? I can totally imagine this kind of scenario. Because I mean, we have Paralympics, so why don't we have tech Olympics in the future? So I love this idea personally. Let's have a small outlook. We were talking about wearables, we're talking about drinks, we're talking about garments, right? About different kinds of form factors. We were not talking about contact lenses, AI contact lenses, or AR contact lenses. We could do this because there was a couple of tries in this space, but unfortunately, one of the companies, which is called Mojo Vision from San Francisco Bay Area, that was created AR contact lenses that could overblend the level of reality and show you some things right into your eye, including and very focused on fitness. Like this could be a running route, right? This could be your fitness stats in real time while you're exercising. So this could all be possible, but now they unfortunately had to close this part of the research. They didn't get enough funding, and they were already funded by Google and such, and focus more on the sensor technology, because along the way they of course developed a very interesting sensor technology with manual sensors. They will be probably fueling the next generation of wearables in 2 to 3 years. So this is where we need to meet again and talk again what happened in the last years. So of course we also have wearables like the glasses, right? We know that Google didn't really have lots of success with the Google Glass. Those guys were called glass holes, and that was for a reason, because that wasn't seamless technology. We'll see new categories, definitely, and we know that Apple was working on the AR glass, but we also know that the launch date was postponed, so there's no clear information, as often is the case with Apple, and we probably will not see any glasses, any interesting cases this year, right? So this is why I just want to focus on things that are already being worked on or being brought into the market. All right, last but not least, so what do we expect? We have seen lots of hardware here, right? Well, I believe that one of the interesting cases for the future is platform agnostic biometrics, right? What I mean by that is the data that can be kind of collected without using any hardware platform at all, but also just using your phone, right? But also interoperability. When you collect the data with just one device, right now there's really a very limited capability to share those data with other devices or with other systems, tech systems, right? This will change, definitely, because people do have several wearables and they do want to have the platform, which is probably today would be Apple Health. But in the future, we'll see also more sophisticated platforms where all data is flowing to, and where insights are being generated on top of this collected data. So just to give you 2 examples, and then I suggested to open the floor for questions and for the conversation. One of them is Spren. It's US based, and they've collected quite a few million recently. And those guys are smartphone first, right? They just say, hey, forget the wearable. We don't have any hardware. We're just a software platform. And of course, software businesses are the ones that can be scaled better and faster, right? This is true, because with hardware, you always have problems on top, right? You have manufacturing problems, you have IP problems, you have distribution problems. Lots of customers want to send the device back, so it's a lot of pain on top if you have hardware. So investors, of course, also love software-based businesses because they're just easier to scale and easier to maintain. So that's an example. The example of Spren shows that they can do quite a lot of things. So they call themselves camera-enabled biomarker platform, right? No wearables needed. They can track your body composition. They can again track stress recovery based on heart rate data, breathing data, right? They can do overall health assessments, and they are offering themselves as a B2B2C service. So they're kind of the backend. They see themselves as a backend for fitness apps, for health apps, later on for for gym apps, for I don't know, for probably doctor apps, if doctors will be developing their own apps in the future. The ecosystem, the infrastructure for the backend of those apps is already here, right? This is probably the same as ChatGPT, which is currently being so overhyped. There are lots of applications based on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is just being used as a backend service, right? And we're seeing kind of similar trend in the wearable space. Another example is Rook Motion, and those guys are offering biomarker and health data API for apps, right? They have access to Google Fit, to Apple Health data. They're integrated with quite a few wearables and other apps, and they're super new. So they were still part of the acceleration program a couple of months ago, right? So they're moving fast, and I think this kind of business is very interesting because the business model is just putting, collecting data, charging per use or per user or per, whatever. But this is an interesting model because it can be scaled infinitely, which wearables are harder to do, right? So I believe this is a very interesting part of the market just to look into, not to overlook when we're speaking just about the hardware-based wearables. And now I would just say thank you, and let's chat what that means for all of us.
Wow, Natalia, thank you so much. That was really a very impressive talk. Thank you so much for so many insights we have learned from the wearable market. It was really, really interesting. Thank you so much. And you see the hearts flying towards you.
I hope, thank you. I hope you weren't disturbed by cars that wanted to drive by here, where they're never doing this, but right now, during my conversation, of course, everybody wanted to drive by and,
No, there was no disturbance that we could hear. So thank you very much. So first question we had, of course, if you can share the slides, if it's possible to share it within the Border Forward Cosmos.
I think that this is definitely possible. Let me just, send me the link. I need to just a couple of things that I noticed, and I'll send you the new one.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks. So, of course, the question for Border Forward is what's in for Border Forward. So, if you look at all the wearables, what you just introduced, which one will be the most successful in the German market, for example? I mean, you have the overview for all European or outside Europe, the market overviews. Which one are the best performer, and how would Border Forward, for example, can lead into the market as well, and what kind of Apple Watch, for example, should Border Forward produce?
Oh, I don't think that Border Forward should produce anything at all, except content. Because I mean, this is not your business, right? However, what I think you should know is, of course, that there's the category of potential, advertising clients that is growing as well, and that are looking for new ways to reach their audiences. And B2C is where you guys are strongest most.
And what kind of wearables would you say will be at least be established the best in Germany? So you showed a lot of wrists, rings, and also garments. So what will be the next successfully tools or wearables will lead in the German market?
Well, if I look into this whole, I mean, exoskeletons, it's like still far future on the fitness side of things. I think there will always be geeks that we will be trying like sweat patches and stuff like that, right? But we also know that Germans are quite conservative in their choice of what they're buying, and the ability or the willingness to buy the gadget as soon as it hits the market, right? So here I would probably say, I guess that Germany would be strongest on the wearable side, on the standard wearable side, meaning wristbands, watches, right? But of course, there will always be sub-segments, sub-communities of people that are looking to augment their health in a hardcore way, right? Or are so interested in their well-being that they will go for a no watch or for Oxa, right? I mean, even Oxa, the company is based in European Union. I think they're even in Switzerland, right? So this is not something that is always coming from the United States in terms of innovation. And I think it's also very important to understand that lots of devices in the space are being born in Europe as well. And this is, of course, what we should be using in kind of, co-creating the market for those devices.
Okay, great, thanks. I found this one very interesting, the no watch. And there's one.
I'd love to try this one as well. I'm thinking of
yeah.
buying it. Not sure yet.
Yeah, me too. And I think the ring also, the circular, I think it's also very interesting, which is has a function as a coach, for example. And there's a question from the chat from Eugenio. How many years for a very small, cheaper and performing skeleton for old people?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Look, I'm not someone who is developing the products in this market, right? So, but exoskeletons are very research intense, right? And of course, if you're speaking about medical devices, there's a whole regulatory part of things that's coming on top. If you're speaking about lifestyle devices, it's simpler, right? So I wouldn't say it's gonna, I think optimistically, it's probably 3 to 5 years, right? And of course, we do have those ones that I showed you. Those are already on the market, right? But it's just the question if we're speaking of this kind of devices, it just takes time. Lots of patents, lots of regulatory work to be done. Lots of market acceptance as well, because you know that older people are probably less, tending to try out new things. So it depends. It's really hard to say because it depends on so many factors and who is bringing it, with what kind of partners, how strong the distribution channels are. I mean, you can have a market-ready product, but no one will be buying it because it's too expensive or the market adoption is just not there. Just think about Google Glass, right? It was there, but nobody wanted to wear it. So I think technically those products can hit the market quite quickly, but in terms of preparing the market and market adoption and readiness to pay, and of course, if we're speaking about older people, it's also what the insurers are ready to pay for. It will take time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Natalia. And there's some hand raises from the audience. So Marcus, I think you were the first.
Yeah, a question about you showed the market growth. Will that happen only by people optimizing themselves, or will that happen by sharing this data, which is a difficult task? It's very variable, but if I would share this data with my doctor and the doctor sees, oh, I didn't move, or I made some exercises good or something. So this might be something that ignites the market as well. If somebody else gets the data to help me to keep on track or to do something, if this person is watching my exercises or something. Is this part of this idea of the market growth, or isn't it in it right now?
Look, Marcus, as far as I know, this is just the sales numbers for wearables, right? But you're totally right. I mean, the markets that are being created on top of wearables as the whole ecosystems are way bigger, right? And we also will have markets where a wearable is talking to an app, is talking to something else, which is also not part of this growth yet. And this is why I have brought you this quote, if I still have it. Yeah, right. So we see that categories that are being created are still of unknown market sizes. And that's what makes this market so interesting, because we know that human health will be the next big global market of the probably couple of decades, right? So it's enough to make a couple of fortunes in this market if you're a creator in this market or entrepreneur in this market, right? We also know that Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the biggest VCs worldwide and probably one of the most famous ones, also said that the biggest company in the world will be a health company, right? there's a very interesting post on their website. I would recommend it to anyone just to to have a look at it and their argumentation line. But what kind of company this will be? It's going to probably be it's probably going to be a company that's vertically integrated, so which addresses health issues across different touch points, from doctor to insurance to consumer to some other segments that we're probably even not aware of yet. I mean, 10 years ago, no one would have said that Apple Watch is gonna hit the market, and now Apple Watch sales are bigger than the entire Swiss watch industry, right? And Apple, just in terms of the watch sales, could be one of the biggest medtech companies worldwide. So we don't know what's going to be happening, but we know that the trend is going into the direction of data collection, data processing, creating insights for users and professionals. I mean, professional coaches or doctors, right? And of course, using this data for further models. I mean, I'm not sure if we want to live in this world, but the trend is definitely there. I mean, there are car insurances out there that track everything that you do in the car, how you drive the car, and they offer dynamic pricing for this. So why don't we have dynamic insurances for our bodies, right? Depending on how you work with your body, what you do with your body, how healthy you live, the pricing gets automatically adjusted. Is this a good idea? I don't know, because we don't want to share everything and be fully transparent. Is this a viable idea? Totally. And I tell you, so many insurances would die for having access to this kind of data and being able to adjust their pricing based on the risk, on the health risks. What we already are doing in other industries, in other parts of insurance industries.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks. Nele?
Yeah, thanks. First up, thank you very much for the insights and the really interesting presentation, Natalia. I do have a question, and we already kind of posted, or at least Pedi said it. So what's in it for Border Forward? And I would like to ask you, if you were in our shoes, how would you approach this whole trend? So how would you think as Border Forward? Because you said, we should focus on content, we shouldn't start producing wearables, which I think is a feasible suggestion. How would you approach this ecosystem? How would you as Border Forward become part of it? And for example, also maybe you could shed light on where would you position us in this whole growing field?
Well, I mean, you guys with Oliver Eckert, you are already on track, with doing customer research and positioning and value props and user research. So this is, I would just do the same thing for this specific segment, right? You have lots of data, you know what your users are doing. Next step would just to understand their health needs, and then in the next step, start with the problems of existing users, and then think of what kind of problems you're not solving yet, right? And where's the sweet spot between information, entertainment, health that you're best at, and then probably also find new target segments that you're not addressing yet at all, but where you think you have all the right kinds of assets, or could have the right kinds of assets to address those still underserved audiences.
Mm-hmm. Would you suggest collaborating with one of these hardware providers, or would you say, I don't know, become a more detached part of the ecosystem, or would you go all in?
Look, I don't know. I mean, it's hardware is hard business, right? So this is a very, very different kind of business as well. So you just can't compare this to the publishing business, right? But I think it really depends on what kind of partnerships you're thinking about and what kind of user needs you can cover, and of course what kind of revenues could be generated in the future. And in this case, I would also think what kind of value can we generate in the future, even if now you probably will not be making lots of money. I mean, there were already attempts with My Life and other kind of health publications in the market. And as I said, full disclosure, our investor is the competitor of My Life. That's the Apotheken Umschau and Wort- und Bildverlag. And of course, I would say I'm not in the position of advising on the media side of things in this situation, right? But just do what you guys do best already, use the tools that you are using already, and just apply them in the market that you think is going to grow. And I think we all know that it's growing.
Well, thanks.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And we have one more question from Fabrice. He's also within the Innovation Lab team.
Yes, hi, Natalia. As my colleagues, first of all, thanks a lot for the great insights. And maybe I want to jump directly into this discussion. What's in for Boda Forward when you, Nele, mentioned or asked this question? So I just thought, oh, we have a fitness brand inside Boda Forward, Fit for Fun. And you also showed a use case from a company which has a white label solution. So is there also some good products, brands that also offer good normal wearables, watches, where you can buy a white label solution, so and then label it with Fit for Fun, for example, so something like that?
Yeah, Fabrice, I think this is a very good question, and I honestly just don't know how strong the Fit for Fun brand is anymore, because I mean they don't exist as a separate publication anymore, right? And I think that they lost a huge opportunity in the market, to be honest. I'm not in a position to say how it could have been done better. I mean, but we do know that fitness is such a passionate kind of business that it definitely could have been done differently, right? So it's hard to say, but white labels could be one of the ideas, or just start serving this market, so serving people that are working this market. So think about new opportunities.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And the other question was, so you have great, you showed us a wide range of different products, and I really like their functionality. I also, we are wearable, but I have one big pain point. This is the battery life. Yeah, so it's often the case. So I love my Apple Watch, but after the flight and one night in a hotel, it's empty, and then I have forgotten my charging cable. So is there something in progress like an automatic watch, like an automatic watch where your movement loads the battery, for example, so that this big pain point is maybe not there in the future anymore?
Oh, this is Fabrice. This is a great question. So I have even heard. I think there was Citizen watches that introduced. I'm not sure. Don't catch me by this, but I think they introduced the watch that's being kind of loaded up by your movement. Technically speaking, I think there are still some issues to solve, because of course there were ideas of using your own movement to load up the batteries and so on and so forth. But it's on the technical side, it's not that easy. I told you about the Whoop, right? And this is what they did. They just have the, charging on the go. And this is what I think is a brilliant example of how you bring your users to not taking your device off, because it's just such a natural part of the process. You can, you charge the charger and then you just put this on as a pack, and then it's being charged, and it's not, it's not a disturbance. So these kinds of models, I think, are very interesting. Or of course, wireless charging. I mean, just look at different products like AirPods, right? They've developed this case exactly with the goal for users not to lose the AirPods. And also, this is actually the reason they integrated the charging function right in the AirPods, because they wanted the operation to be seamless, right? And I think that seamless product experiences is something that we definitely should expect in the years to come. In Germany, we are not always that good on this side of things, unfortunately, right? If we just take a totally different example, the FinTech ecosystem, right? I know so many apps that are not the Germany-based apps that have way better user experience, right? Way better. And this is, and the overall expectation on the user experience side is definitely growing. So the market has to, pull up and make sure that they offer the experiences that are great, because like personally, I'm already choosing an app just based on the UX and fonts and how readable the app is, regardless of the functionality, because some functions just the same, right? but the quality of your experience, the joy of experience can be very different.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot.
And Fabrice, you're probably, as being a product guy, you're probably the one who is selling that to your colleagues all the time anyway. So I didn't tell you anything new.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We're really punctual ending. It's like 11:30. Thank you so much, Natalia, for sharing those insights. It was very incredible. And thank you, all of you, for joining this fantastic Future Talk. And
So you know what? Just some fun facts. We have Daniel here, as I see in the chat. And he's from Garmin, and we're well acquainted. Hi, Daniel. And he just recommends you to take Garmin with a solar panel. So that's also an option.
Hello, Natalia. Yeah, I was just listening and learning, and a very great presentation. So I can just highlight that you made a really good overview about the market and such. And as I heard Garmin many times, I was also happy that you don't forget Garmin as a wearable inside of the whole future wearable business.
Daniel, I'm trying to do my best, and I think I still owe you an answer per email.
True.
You'll hear from me in the next couple of days. Good to see you here.
So thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice day. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.